Welcome back to Brick Gaming Legends. Today I'm here with a deck profile. And with the deck, I went X-1 at locals. May not be like super impressive, but my locals is very competitive with a lot of like really great players who have top YCSs, regional, stuff like that. So it's really hard to do well at this local since people are usually playing on a higher level than I feel like at most locals, in my own personal opinion. But I went X1, did super amazing with this, and this is my updated Myutant list. I changed a lot since the last deck profile. Ban list came out, I picked up new cards, I did some decisions based upon how my locals usually runs, all that type of stuff, and I will be giving you this deck profile, plus matchups, plus side deck, extra deck, everything. So every single thing that you could possibly want, I will be including in this video. So first off, I play triple copies of M05. This is a monster searcher on normal or special. And then, of course, they all banish themselves or banish one card from your hand or field and tribute themselves, special summon one of your guys from your deck. So your options, if you banish a monster, is Beast. If you banish a spell, Mist. And if you banish a trap, Arsenal. Then I play 3 copies of ST46. It does the same exact thing, but this one searches spells or traps instead. Now, moving on to the big boys, I play 2 copies of Mutant Beast. This is the spell negator, and it can't be targeted by monster effects. And when it's destroyed, you can add one of your banished traps to your hand. Mutant traps. 2 copies of Arsenal. Arsenal is the monster guy. This one's summoned off of traps and it cannot be targeted with trap effects. Then, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish one of your cards, banish one of their monsters. It does not negate, it just banishes. And then finally, if it's destroyed, you can add one of your banished mutant spells to your hand. And 1 copy of Mist, same exact thing as the other 2, except for when your opponent activates a trap, you banish one of your cards and you draw 2. So all the big boys, super good. Now moving on, I play 3 copies of Necroface. Everyone in my comment section is like, oh, sorry guys. Everyone in my comment section is like, do you gotta play Necroface? And I'm like, you know what? I do. I don't want to pay the money. So I managed to find someone who had them at locals, and I picked them up. So yeah, I just didn't want to pay cash for them. It just wasn't worth it to me, especially at the price that they're going for. Like the commons, I would not pay $5 for the commons. The supers, I feel like $8 to $10 is just ridiculous. And finally, like the secrets, bro, I don't got $400 for each copy. Dude, I don't have that type of money. But luckily I was able to pick them up, and these cards came in clutch. Didn't win any matchups, but definitely helped. And helped, like, kind of decimate people's decks and their resources. Next is 1 copy of Keystone. Keystone, each time he's banished, he goes back to your hand during the end phase. So, yeah, it's really good. Also, he can basically summon himself by targeting one of your banished monsters and shuffling it back into the deck. But that hardly ever comes up, but it's still good. Moving on, 3 D-Shifter, because you don't want your opponent playing the game. If your opponent's playing the game, you're doing something wrong, and D-Shifter is super good, and your deck does not care about D-Shifter, so it's really good. 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just basic hand trap. Then 3 copies of Extravagance, you need a draw power. 3 copies of Evolution Lab. This one on activation, special summons a mutant from your hand or banished, 1 level for a lower one. Then for each banished mutant, all of your mutants on the field gain 100 attack, and that's for each one with a different name. And then finally, you place one of your mutant monsters from your hand on the bottom of your deck and draw 1. So altogether, a really good card, but you can easily side it out or side out 1 or 2 copies to put in side deck stuff. Then 1 emergency teleport, just summon one of your low level guys from your deck. And then finally 1 mutant fusion, which is just a generic fusion from either hand or field by banishing. But your opponent activates a card effect on the turn. During your turn, you can also use your deck and your grave. Then, for the traps, 3 copies of Mutant Expansion. This one summons mutants from your deck. And also is free protection from card effects for your big boys. Then, 3 Mutant Cry. Mutant Cry is just a fusion by shuffling from your field, grave, or banished into your deck to fusion. Then 3 copies of There Can Only Be One. This card just basically shuts down the meta. Like anything meta you play against, this card kind of stops. It also stops the continuous traps for Eldlich if they don't control Golden Lord, which is super nice. They also stop anything like Salads. Anyone that's still playing Dragon Link. You can shut down Dogmatika, you can shut down Invoked potentially. It's a really, really good card all around. Then 2 copies of Punishment because you don't want your opponent playing the game. You don't want them getting resources on the field, so Punishment came in clutch. And then finally for the 2 1-ofs, I play 1 copy of Macro and 1 copy of Imperial Order. The reason I play Imperial is just because you don't have enough spells that are like super powerful throughout the duel. And the only thing that really comes in clutch is Evolution Lab, but that's just for attack bonus after its initial activation. So Imperial Order is actually really, really good in this deck. And then of course Macro because you don't care about the graveyard. So really good. I almost didn't play D-Fissure today, but I didn't want to. It would just be another card, and my deck is already at just a little bit over 40. So I was like, I don't need the additional card. I don't want bricking more than I already do. So no D-Fissure as of right now, but if I were to exchange one, I would probably take out Imperial Order and put in D-Fissure. But Imperial Order is just really good this meta, and the only thing it loses to is really Eldlich. Then I play, for the extra deck, 3 copies of Ultimus. You want, it's good, it's broken, it's busted. You hardly ever make it though. I made it like once, so it's fine. It's fine if it gets banished, but you always want to have at least 1 copy just in case you banish off of it extra. Then 3 copies of Synthesis. Synthesis is also really, really good. Just pops on summon and it can change from monster, spell, or trap, and it's affected by that type of card for the rest of the turn. 3 copies of Nitsis because this is clutch, super, super mega clutch against Dogmatika or any Dogmatika variants, because if they activate Maximus, you're feeling good. And then on top of that, you also play Punishment, so you just get blow up your opponent's stuff. Then play 2 copies of Ding. I feel like number 38 just is really bad, so Ding is the way to go. Then 1 copy True King of All Calamities, because, you can make it. If you can make it, you might as well play it. And then 1 copy of Totally Awesome. You can't make it, but it's just another punishment target. And this one, it just gets you your water guys engraved back to your hand, so it's really nice. And then 2 copies of Phoenix. You never really make them, but it's always there just in case. Or if you get too many little boys on the field and you can't get rid of them, then Phoenix can be really, really good. And also it can remove a Psychic from your side of the field, and then you can continue comboing if you have. There can only be 1 on your side of the field as well. Moving on to the side deck, I play 3 copies of Nibiru, just in case I play against combo. I sided this card in against 1 of my matchups, at least, or 2 of my matchups today. I have played Nibiru, I just never saw it. So then I play 2 copies of DD Crow, just graveyard removal. If you're playing against Eldlich or any other graveyard-based deck and you're going second, it's just kind of like having another D-shifter. And it can just kind of help prevent your opponent from going too far into combos. Then 3 copies of Mystic Mine because we're not toxic at all. It's not toxic if you're playing a deck that's fair. Well, honestly, I don't think Mystic Mine is toxic. Is it the card Mystic Mine? Not toxic at all. People think it's toxic because people aren't willing to side deck for it or main deck outs for it. People think, oh, yeah, my deck's a combo deck, so I don't need to play cards like Cosmic or Harpies, so I don't need to worry about Mystic Mine. And then when someone plays Mystic Mine, they're just like, oh, that's so toxic, that's toxic. I see that all the time on lines or on online duels or people talking about the ban list and stuff, talking about how this card's so unfair. It's not even unfair, not even pure Mystic Mine decks. The deck is still pretty fair because it doesn't really do a lot. So I have no issue with this card. It's basically just kind of like a snowball card against your opponent, especially if they don't prepare for it. But if your opponent's prepared, then it doesn't matter. It's just a card that will give you 1 or 2 extra turns to get to resources. And then if you don't get there, you don't get there. But if you do get there, you're able to play after that. But a lot of people just don't see this card as fair for whatever reason. I think Max sees a more unfair card, but that's just all my personal opinion. Then I play 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone and 1 Heart Piece Feather Duster. See, look at me. I'm even prepared for Mystic Mine or Back Row decks. Because, you know what? They exist. And as long as they exist, you might as well be prepared. So, always had to have a little bit of preparation. I kind of put in back row removal again just because a lot of the decks right now are a lot heavier on back row. So I decided to throw those back in. And then finally, 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Really, really good card. Just a blowout against Eldlich Zoo. Blowout against Prank Kids. It's just really a blowout card. So you kind of need to play it just to win those matchups. Now let me get into my matchups. Round 1, I played against Eldlich Dogmatika. And I have a pretty horrible matchup against that deck, so I wasn't really expecting to win. And our game 1 went for 40 minutes. We didn't get past game 1. Game 1 was the only game we played, and I lost by 800 life points. It was a life point decision. I made a small misplay. It wasn't really a misplay, but if I hadn't done it, I would have lost. So basically, I'm down on resources, and I'm lower on life points, and I can't really get into any more mutants because pretty much I've gone through almost all of them. And I need to see like a mutant cry to continue being able to play, but I have 7 cards left in my deck, and it's a 1 in 7, and the card in my hand is Necroface, and I know that if I summon down Necroface, my opponent could probably get rid of it, even though they were also low on resources, because I banished like half of their deck with all my stuff, and so pretty much half of my deck was banished and half of their deck was banished. I needed the resources. So normal summon down my copy of Necroface. They have a Golden Boy on field, but I'm assuming they're out of like Golden Traps because basically they're really low on resources at that point. So I'm like, cool, they're out of Golden Traps. They haven't been able to activate any of their like Golden Land cards in graves. They can't get any more of their summoners. Like, and I'm like, cool, this is perfectly fine. So I normal summon down Necroface, and it has over 4,000 attack points. And if my attack goes through, I've automatically won the game. Unfortunately, they had Conquistador, and then my turn was pretty much ended. But then they also couldn't go for a game during the next turn because they just couldn't see like the last like one more monster or whatever to go for a game. So it passes back to me. I see Mutant Cry, and then time is called. So yeah, I basically almost got there, but not quite. And yeah, time was called pretty much shortly after that and just ended up losing. But that was my only loss of the day, and it was a very close game, very competitive game throughout the entire game 1. It was really good back and forth, so I'm not even upset about losing that game just because of how competitive it was and how good it was. My round 2, I went into time again during round 2. Luckily this time I had the life point advantage and it was game 3. So I played against Invoked. How do I explain this deck? It was basically like Big Boy Invoked. It's the best way I can explain it. Like, they were playing Kaijus. They were basically playing everything short of Mech Knights for going second. And I was like, cool, okay. I have no idea what to do in this matchup. I haven't played against Invoked in forever. So I misplayed exactly once in that game, but I still ended up getting that game because my opponent misplayed more than me. They didn't know what they were doing. I was having a little bit of a hard time, but I won because of life points, and also I was way ahead on advantage by that point just because they had kind of gone through most of the resources. And yeah, so I ended up getting that game in time. Then my round 3 was against Prank Kids, but it was a little bit spicy. So normally I lose against Prank Kids. Like, I almost always lose to Prank Kids. And if you had heard about my record earlier going X-1, then you know I didn't lose this game. And I was playing against Prank Kids, and game 1, I opened up the nuts, and I just didn't let them get Prank Kid on the board. The guy just kept killing their Prank Kid, so they didn't get game 1. Game 1 was just a loss for them. Game 2, on the other hand, they went first, they went first, game 2, they did their whole thing, but I ashed. I didn't ash. I dimension shifted them on their first summon, which was their level 1 Prank Kid. So they just made Link, Kribo, and passed. And then passed this to me. And basically what happened was, how do I explain it? I opened the nuts. That's all I'm going to say. I opened the nuts. I had Imperial Order. I had Punishment. I had, obviously I had D-Shifter. I also had Mystic Mine, and I had 2 other mutants. So I was looking pretty good. And yeah, basically the game didn't last very much longer because as soon as they went on their first quick play fusion activation, I went, nah, bruh, it's Imperial Order time, and that was basically the scoop phase, because they could no longer play the game, and I just summoned down a whole bunch of big boys, and yeah, it was sad. Then, for my final round, I played against Dragon Link. Dragon Link still around? Yes, Dragon Link is still around. It's crazy. I beat the deck X-1. Yeah, I don't even know what happened. Basically, like, the best way I can explain it is game 1 ID shifter, then that was a GG. Game 2, they went first, put up too many, like, negates because I didn't see any hand traps. And I'm like, cool. Game 3, I went first. I saw a whole bunch of back row and enough Myutant to play for days. And also, I opened There Can Only Be One, and against Dragon Link, that deck cannot play through that after the new list, plus other interactions. So basically, I'm beating that deck 2-1. So that's my tournament report. Every single deck I played against was at least relatively competitive, and would be considered a better deck than Mutants. I think a lot of people consider pretty much any of those decks better than Mutants. But this deck can still do stuff. It's still competitive. It's still super busted. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not subscribed, I would highly recommend it. And I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace.